Good evening and welcome to Pynchon Pals. It's a podcast about finally reading Thomas Pynchon. I'm trying a different intonation this week. My name is Patrick Fiorilli, and I'm joined as always by Andrew Tillett.
Hello, everybody.
And Duri Long.
Guten Tag.
There it is. Up at the top, we'd like to thank our supporters at patreon.com/PynchonPals, where you can sign up for $5 a month to hear exclusive bonus episodes like our June bonus episode just released on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and our upcoming bonus episodes on We Haven't Decided Yet, but you'll be the first to know when we get there. But if you want to hear us talk about the 1988 live-action animated combo classic Who Framed Roger Rabbit and its relationship to automobile industry conspiracies and Pynchon-esque slapstick antics, you can go there and sign up for $5 a month. Thanks again to those of you who have already done so. On tonight's episode, we are discussing sections 3.1 and 3.2 of Thomas Pynchon's Gravity's Rainbow, a book we are all reading for the very first time. We have taken a little bit of a break since we last convened to talk about the book Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. What was it like for y'all coming back? We're back in it.
Yeah, we took most of June off, and like jumping in the deep end of a pool after a long sojourn in the reclining sun chairs. My breath was taken away.
The main thing I thought coming back to this series of episodes was, thank God we watched that V2 documentary for the previous Patreon episode.
I feel like on every single page I made a note that was like, from the documentary, just underlined from the documentary.
Yeah, it was well worth it. I feel like I would have been very lost without those documentaries about what on earth was going on here.
You mean the documentaries that our listeners can go to patreon.com/PynchonPals to listen to us talk about? Those documentaries?
Those very documentaries. And if there ever were a time to subscribe to our Patreon for useful content about Pynchon, now would be the moment.
It might be the most relevant episode so far of the bonus content, and we got it in. I'm glad we got it in when we did. I believe we received a comment on Spotify that our next movie watch should definitely be the original King Kong. And then at least, this is The Inconvenience on Spotify, shout out, at least one German expressionist classic, either The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari or The Testament of Dr. Mabuse.
Well, little do they know that The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is one of my favorite movies.
That's a good one. Andrew, you ever seen that?
I haven't. But Duri's selling it.
That one is very good, but I was also interested. I've never heard of The Testament of Dr. Mabuse. I don't know. How do you pronounce Mabuse in German? Mabuse? Mabuse?
Despite opening this podcast with Guten Tag, I do not know very much German.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Mabusa?
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 Mabusa? Anyways, it is about like an evil hypnotist who sort of gets in people's heads, and his sort of like criminal plans revolving around hypnotizing people, I think. So it sounds very relevant to this book. So maybe we'll definitely put that on the list. I do think King Kong maybe makes sense.
I think it would provide some helpful contextual information.
So that'll probably be our July episode, but go back and listen to us talk about the V2 documentaries as well. If you want to hear us aghast at such fun facts as the Nazis selected the site of Peenemünde thanks to Werner von Braun's mother telling him that his grandfather used to really enjoy fishing over there and maybe he should take a look. Those sorts of facts and more we get into.
Had I not watched those documentaries, I don't know if I would have readily believed how much of these two episodes were rooted in actual events.
Shall we hop into them? There's many events to cover, even in just 2 sections.
Let's dive in to
All
the
right.
zone.
Oh dear, do I have my chapter summaries pulled up? There they are. Let me scroll all the way to the bottom. For some reason, all of my chapter summaries are in one document, so I have to scroll all the way through V and the Crying of Lot 49 for no good reason.
What do you mean
set it
for
up that
some
way.
reason? As if it happened to you, not of your own accord?
It did kind of happen to me. How would I know that we were going to keep going with this podcast? Inconceivable when I set up all of the Google Docs.
Written it even more chaotically and just been writing on the first page each time, so you're pushing V down to like page 50 over time.
I did think that would actually be an easier solution later as I was going, but here we are.
You could start a new tab.
I don't fuck with the tabs on Google Docs. I don't know what they are. I don't trust them.
You could publish the chapter summaries at the end of this run as a manga if you were writing it.
You have a back, sort of right to left, you mean? Yeah. All right. Here's my chapter summary for 3.1. Now in the zone, we find Slothrop Tyrone in a train car, headed for Nordhausen. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good.
Mm-hmm.
Duri, did you know he was going to do that?
No, I did not.
Thoughts of Katya occupy him as he traverses springtime landscapes dotted with abandoned buildings and populated by displaced persons. Atop one freight car, he meets Major Dwayne Marvey of U.S. Army Technical Intelligence, who soon gets tossed overboard by one Oberst Enzian of the Schwarzkommando, who imparts to Slothrop some cryptic wisdom about freedom. Slothrop's been studying the YAMP files, in which he discovers connections to his family's paper company through associations with Bostonian Lyle Bland's dealings, with promissory notes for German rearmament following World War I. What's more, his own initials alongside those of his father appear in Yamp's notes beside German codenames meaning Black Boy and Black Father, respectively, and it seems Slothrop's college days were bankrolled through this connection. It's then he starts to realize it's the smell of Imipolex G that gets him going. In Nordhausen, he meets gaily tripping, maybe a witch and an apparent informant and part-time lover of Soviet intelligence officer Chicherin. She, of course, takes a liking to Tyrone, and their romantic encounter finds him meeting her owl familiar and learning that the Imipolex G doohickey he's been after, properly called the Schwarzgerät, or Black Device, might soon be hitting the black market.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah, let's talk about we have a new, what did we determine it was last time? Epigraph. Would you like to speak about the Midwestern connection?
You know, as a big Wizard of Oz fan, I am from Kansas, and my whole life growing up, anytime I went anywhere, everyone was like, "You're not in Kansas anymore."
Anytime you went out of Kansas?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a
Does
good
it say
line.
that on the highway signs instead of leaving,
It
now
should.
leaving?
It does not, but that would be pretty cute.
It
if
does
it
really
did.
feel like a layup that they should have done.
Yeah.
Kansas DOT, get on it. This one's a freebie. This is, of course, from The Wizard of Oz. I assume Dorothy says this in the book as well. It's not just a line from the movie, but I don't know offhand.
Yeah, sort of a down the rabbit hole situation.
Yeah. We've gotten, I think loosely, I don't know if we mentioned it on the pod, but a lot of people have picked out Alice in Wonderland references throughout this novel, and I think across Pynchon's work generally. But, this is a different kind of through the looking glass moment.
I realize we're moving to like a different locale here.
The zone.
The zone. It's now like post VE day. So we're also moving into like a different energy. That being said, I feel like we have been in Oz this whole time. Like, if not Oz, what was the toilet episode? Like, I'm not sure that these two episodes got specifically more fantastical than the rest of the book has been so far.
Yeah, it's kind of a threat. You know, you think it's been weird up to this point. Buckle up.
Yeah,
now we're in the zone.
Is it we're not in Kansas anymore, or is it like abandon all hope, ye who enter here? One of the two.
We don't skip ahead to what the fourth epigraph is. That could be it.
Yeah. So yeah, we start in with the changing of the seasons arrives. I like these ice saints, who are all of the saints' days that I guess happen in the winter or in the late winter before spring comes.
If you weren't convinced, it's actually in May, would you believe, in Germany. So if you consider May to be late winter.
Yes. I assume the ice saints are like the January, February, March. No?
Nope. The ice saint days are actually May 11th through 14th. It's the last cold snap of the year.
Oh, okay.
Sort of.
Someone was doing their research.
Yeah. A la sometimes it snows in April, if you're a Prince fan.
Shout out to Prince.
I had something else to say besides the ice saints, but... Oh, I was going to say that if you weren't convinced earlier that Pynchon had done his background research on sort of like German and Nordic folklore, Norse. Are Nordic and Norse the same thing?
Norse is a language. Nordic is an adjective.
Okay, so the Nordic sort of like folklore.
And here's another SAT word.
He really gets into it in These 2 episodes.
Teutonic, as Weisenberger is often pointing out, the Teutonic folklore allusions that Pynchon is making.
Teutonic?
Yeah.
Is that a different thing?
I think it's the more sort of like Germanic
inclusive
side of things.
Okay.
If the like
Siegfrieds.
The Siegfrieds more than the I don't know who's
Odin. Who's the
you're Woden instead of your Wotan instead of Odin. That's the sort of Germanic Teutonic versions that he's going with.
I see. Well, anyways, Pynchon did his folklore research.
Indeed he did, yes. It's interesting. Crying of Lot 49 took place in a very short time span, but I like this book returning to the nearly V-esque timeline where V kind of neatly takes place in a little over a year, where you get sort of like, it starts a little after Christmas and then it goes through the next New Year. And it gives the whole thing like a real sort of progressive quality, especially as the tensions start rising in the summer.
Thanks for sort of bounding where this book ends for me, because I would not have been surprised if we just went all the way up to like the present day.
Oh, I don't know where it ends. Let me be clear.
You don't know where it ends.
I'm just saying that it has moved forward in time in a way that The Crying of Lot 49 did not.
I see. I was like, this could span dozens of years as far as I'm concerned. We'll see. But yeah, thus far, basically we've made it up to VE Day, which was also in May.
He's thinking a lot about Katja. That's sort of a recurring theme throughout these sections.
We briefly refresh how Slothrop got to the zone.
By train.
But he just like,
he got
his passport and stuff.
When he was Waxwing made him his
identity,
his fake documents and his like journalism card ID,
and he decided to come here.
ID.
Ian Scuffling.
Yeah, Ian Scuffling.
And
he
decided to come here to track down the Emma Polex G situation.
Yeah,
loosely.
and the quintuple zero rocket.
Yeah, so what he knows from the teletype, from the what's his name's hotel room. How long ago that was. From the teletype machine, he found out about the Quintuple Zero rocket, which seems to be the only one that has a connection with Imipol XG through this S-Garat, which he learns in this chapter is the Schwarzgarat.
Thanks for that refresher, as it's been a minute.
Yeah, some kind of device. Maybe potentially related to, like, you know, like airplanes have black boxes.
Well, he's got the black boy moniker. Like, it's sort of part of the black program, I guess. Like, everyone in this is labeled as black.
Yes, and of course this intersects with the black rocket troops. There's a lot of blackness and whiteness in these two sections, both, I think, literally and metaphorically, in ways that feel like they're picking up on the themes with which we ended the last chapter 2 or part 2, whatever you want to call it. All of which kind of begins here as he is meeting, he meets Major Dwayne Marvey, who is telling him about Herero beliefs about ancestors. But then we jump back to a scene where Slothrop is burning human hair from a doll and, like, trading the doll's eyeballs for, you know, supplies and whatnot. He hallucinates or dreams, or maybe this actually happens, that there is, like, something between a very old person and a child but with old laughter, who, like, sends toys out to him and then they dance.
Feels sort of reminiscent of the Hansel and Gretel situation.
Mm-hmm.
He was, like, sitting in a children's playhouse. It also kind of reminded me a little bit of, I feel like in V we had a lot of imagery with eyes and, like, St. Lucy holding eyes on a plate. I don't have enough thought on this to, like, really bring it home, but I was kind of reminded of St. Lucy with him sort of holding on to the eyes and bartering the eyes.
Yeah, a lot of taking apart bodies.
But yeah.
Comes up a lot in Pynchon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like several parts of this were calling me back to V, but yeah, the disassembly of the doll's body. The doll also kind of reminded me, I actually thought this was a dream sequence at first, but
I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope so.
Anyways, the doll kind of reminded me of he was thinking about Katja, and then he kind of went into this dream sequence where he was disassembling, like, a blonde doll. And I was wondering if it was kind of like he was, like, somehow disassembling Katja in his brain.
I think it also relates. I mean, they talk about the hair of the doll being from a Jewish girl. The sort of Germany has been, you know, fighting this war effort by, sort of figuratively and literally burning the Jews. Like, they're using them as slave labor to build weapons, and they're also exterminating them in camps. And now Slothrop has gotten to Germany and he's burning a doll partially made of Jewish, not flesh, but hair.
Yeah.
To, like, stay warm in this, like, cold, like, as he's, like, sleeping outside.
Well, yeah, and, like, what are the implications of that, like, children's dolls were being made from, like, parts of Jewish people's bodies from concentration camps? It also kind of reminded me of, like, how Katja sort of traded in the lives of several Jewish families sort of to continue her ruse.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Katja, I think, is compared to a doll on several occasions. I mean, I think we've talked about how she's kind of dressed up like a doll frequently.
Yeah.
So assuming this is a dream, every part of this dream seems to relate to Katja in some way for Slothrop.
Yeah, like her artifice or her body is somehow now constructed of those that she sent to their deaths.
Yeah. We don't really ever get a description of the body of this entity that Slothrop is communing with, but all we get is out of the fire's pale a tiny frost flower with a hand and a, quote, little waist.
It struck me that he was sort of kind of like hopping trains to hunt down rocket components, which is very similar to what he was doing originally in London.
Yeah.
Before he started off on this adventure. So he's kind of made it full circle from when he was like hunting down pieces of the V2 rocket to now.
We get a connection here to Franz Pokler. Remember Franz Pokler?
Yes,
No.
Linny's bum husband.
Oh, where do we connect
hangs
to
out
him?
with Mondaugen.
This is from the file on Imipolex G, seems to point to Nordhausen. Quote, the engineer on the customer end of the Imipolex contract was one Franz Pokler.
I missed that.
Came to Nordhausen in early 44.
You can't snooze for a second with this Thomas Pynchon guy.
Yep.
And we thought
So, yes,
all of that Linny and Franz stuff was just set building.
I mean, to be fair, the last time we saw the sort of rampant objectification of a Jewish woman was when Linny was fantasizing about her revolutionary buddies.
True.
So there's a connection there too, I think.
I think the lesson of Franz coming back up is that when you meet a side character in a side character's backstory, that's the person whose name you should highlight for the future.
I think that's right. I'm still circling every name that I see, and then later realizing that some of them are real people and some of them aren't.
I think what I should be doing is making sort of like a list off to the side. So every time a new name comes up, I can sort of scan my index.
I started that when we first started. On the like title page of the book. I have Prentice, Fantasies, Bananas, Slothrop, Achtung, Girls.
Did that quickly get out of hand?
Yeah, it quickly got out of hand. I got to Pointsman and then stopped.
I contemplated doing something like that with V, because I was like, I know there's a lot of characters in this book, so maybe there should be an Excel sheet that we have. And I was like, oh, it would just be uselessly long, like impossible to like a quick reference guide that's hundreds of lines.
Yeah. What can you do? So yes, where are we? Slothrop is on the train. There is a displaced person song about trains going by. There's obviously some resonances here with trains leading to and from the sort of extermination camps. I can't remember if that's something that we mentioned when trains were mentioned as like the polymerization of molecules in plastics, but
I want to say it did come up. But
yeah. I think that's another association here. Who wants to unpack the conspiracy Slothrop puzzles through about himself and Yamp's records?
There's a lot of people in this too.
Some of them are real, some of them are not. Hugo Stinnes?
So I have things to say about Hugo Stinnes, but I'm not sure if I'm like fully capable of re-articulating this full conspiracy theory on the spot.
I think the gist is Yamf had some stock in some businesses that were operating out of Boston, including a contract for basically the production of what these Mepho bills. I'm just going to read from Wikipedia that were a 6-month promissory note drawn upon a dummy company devised by German central bank president in 1934. Basically, they were kind of like a legal loophole that allowed Germany to fund some of its rearmament. And one of the producers of, I guess, the paper of those bills was Slothrop's family, the Slothrop Paper Company.
Specifically Lyle Bland.
Yeah, and Lyle Bland was kind of the go-between, and Slothrop seems to have a very direct connection to Lyle Bland, like knew his family very closely, business associates, but that's the connection to Yamf.
Calls him uncle at one point.
Yeah.
And he remembers being lifted upside down by him by like 1 foot.
Yeah, in a very like kind of Achilles sort of way.
Yeah, and Lyle, like he kind of goes through this little history lesson of Germany as part of this, related to Hugo Stinnes, who is a real person, kind of a magnate in pre-World War II Germany. He died in 1924, but had like owned at one point, I think like 20% of the German economy, and sort of created, by some accounts, some of the inflation, or a large amount of the inflation that sort of stymied the Weimar Republic, was very into right-wing politics and financed the sort of like media empire that would ultimately be used by the Nazis. And I thought it was interesting that he actually in real life had a relationship with paper mills. Not for the reason specified here, but he actually did buy up paper mills in order to make newspapers independent of the paper market. So like he could publish what he wanted to without being sort of held hostage by the paper makers, which then kind of became the media empire that led to the Nazis used.
The newspaper, the paper manufacturers were influencing what was being printed by like not selling to people they didn't like.
I'm not sure if they were actively doing that, but he wanted to prevent it.
Okay.
According to what I read.
If you know that you're about to go off the rails, it's not a bad idea.
You know, you can do a hell of a lot, I guess, if you own the means of production. People are talking about this more and more.
So yeah, he was actually tied up with paper mills.
Interesting.
In certain ways. I don't know if it had to do with making money, but it did. What I read said that it had to do with sort of his media empire.
Yeah, so the Mefo business here was an imaginary company that allowed other companies to trade money back and forth without it being money, because that would have been illegal to use for rearmament. Which I think dovetails nicely with this kind of strained relationship this book is building between what is real, what is fictional, fictionality, sort of imaginary things or purportedly imaginary things becoming real, or the imagination having a kind of being conditioned to imaginary things makes real responses in a certain way. But it's neat stuff. I had no idea about any of this. But the Slothrops were involved in it. And we really seem to be coming to a head here with the business about the Forbidden Wing, and now we know that Bland is kind of connected here. I mean, the case seems to be being built that the Slothrops kind of sold infant Tyrone to some psychological experimentation at best, at the hands of Bland and Yamf, that is somehow involved with the Imipol XG business, and in return Slothrop got to go to Harvard. Although it would seem that Yamf never actually paid Harvard University, because there's an outstanding debt to Harvard University, so, you know, what can you say? But I thought it was funny that one of Slothrop's main confusions is like, that would explain why every time I went home or wrote home, everyone was always talking about the financial ruin of the family, but I was having a great time at Harvard. The other thing we get is that Yamf gives nicknames to people in his notebooks. Stins is Schwindel, which I think I looked up means dizziness. And as I mentioned earlier, TS and BS, as Pynchon, for Broderick Slothrop are black boy and black father in German. We'll see where it goes.
You guys want to mention this like second sort of dream sequence that we get? It's not really a dream sequence. He tells us about a dream that he's having, where he is reading the German technical dictionary. And he's sort of going down the words, and he gets to, I guess, the word yamf every time, and the definition is just the word I didn't like that. I was really skeeved out by that.
Yeah, it's a creepy section. Also, it's odd. Speaking of, like, this is another racial signifier here. The type is the type face is described as being blackface, which is an interesting adjective
didn't even
to
notice
use.
that.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, an interesting adjective to use for ink on a page.
What are the implications of Yamf being I?
Yeah, that he's sort of dreaming from Yamf's point of view.
Interesting.
Is, I don't know, unsettling to say the least, and perhaps something to keep in mind going forward.
Yeah. Back on the train, we get properly introduced to Major Marvey of U.S. Army Ordnance. Did you know? I did not know until reading this, that ordnance and ordinance are spelled differently.
Can't say I knew that.
I didn't know
ordnance in a military sense. I thought that this spelling ORDNANCE was like Thomas Pynchon doing one of his sort of phonetic spellings. But no, it turns out ordnance,
like
the military, is different than ordinance, like a public ordinance or something. I always thought they were spelled the same.
Okay, yeah. I guess I would have assumed they were spelled the same. Yeah,
but this
just always assumed someone had a little bit of an accent when they were talking about
military
ordinances.
Yeah. He's in charge of Marvey's Mothers, the meanest ass technical intelligence team in this whole fucking zone, mister. This guy is sort of like, in many ways, down to his sort of raving anti-black racism, really like a parody of an American guy that you might see in like a non-American film or something.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of those two Americans that Slothrop ran into in the last bit we read, where it was the first time Slothrop heard American as something foreign, or like as someone who's not American would hear an American.
Yeah, I'm not sure Americans are portrayed in the most flattering light in these two episodes.
Well, to be fair, neither are the British throughout most of this book.
Yeah, it's sort of struck by how many Americans show up. Like, we've been dealing exclusively with Slothrop being the sole American in the plot, and then once he gets in amongst the Americans and they all think he's British, and stuff doesn't go well for him.
Yeah.
Well, that stuff doesn't go well for him when he's with the British either, again, I guess, to be fair.
Yeah. Everyone's out to get Slothrop.
But it's kookier when it's with the Americans.
Yeah, so this is where Slothrop learns what the deal is with the Schwarzkommando as we get a little bit more information here. The idea being that there are, I guess, sort of Herero auxiliary troops assigned to a variety of rocket launch sites around what is now what I guess used to be Germany and is now the zone. Many of whom are sort of organizing together for purposes we don't know yet.
Yeah, and Marvy is quite racist in his description of these troops.
Yeah.
We also get, I guess, a little before the racism, we get a comment on a group called Project Hermes. Which
did this come up in one of our V2 documentaries?
I don't remember. I should have Googled this. I wrote it down.
I thought
to
it sounded
Google
familiar.
And then failed to.
Yeah, so this is U.S. Army Ordnance Corps partnering with General Electric.
Easy. Thank you to the documentaries.
Ran 1944 to 1954. So it's been going for a little while, Project Hermes. But I guess now they're like really...
They're on the ground.
Launching into they're on the ground, they're getting their hands on all this German rocketry. You notice another group of people Thomas Pynchon seems to have very little patience for, besides, I guess, Americans and the British, is engineers and aerospace engineers.
I feel like some of the hate for Yo-Yo-Dyne is like coming into focus a little bit as we're reading this. Despises engineers. Maybe all those years at Boeing.
Uh-huh. Interrupting Marvy is what appears to be one of these very Herero rocket troops who is introduced as Oberst Enzian.
We remember the name Enzian.
We do.
We do. A side character and a side character. Back.
The boy that was molested by the captain.
Blacaro.
The same captain. Blacaro, thank you. I couldn't remember his last name. And I went back to look for it, and all I could find was the captain. But I obviously didn't look hard enough. Had to finish reading.
Yeah, and Enzian is a flower, right?
Yeah, it's a blue flower. I think it's the gentian flower. It's like the German word for that.
Oh, it's also a German World War II surface-to-air anti-aircraft missile.
Interesting.
Named for the gentian mountain flower. Okay, interesting. He says several really interesting lines, including our patience is enormous, though perhaps not unlimited.
And then he throws Marvy off the train.
Good for him.
Which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah. He claims to be a displaced person like everybody else. Explains that he thinks that Marvy will continue to be an annoyance. And then they have Slothrop and Enzian have an interesting little back and forth. Enzian asks, "Are you really a war correspondent?" "No," says Slothrop. "A free agent, I'd guess. Don't know about that free, Oberst. But you are free. We all are. You'll see. Before long." Before long. Plans are afoot, I suppose.
Yeah, but who knows what they might be. Still got half a book to figure that out.
Yeah, this is, it rhymes a little bit. Didn't Slothrop in the last thing that we read say that it was his first, like, breath of air as a free man since his Achtung days?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now he's starting to question that, but maybe he shouldn't be questioning it.
You know, he's a paranoid.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be questioning everything. I thought it was funny, a little later on, several people question whether Slothrop is a war correspondent throughout these episodes, and Slothrop at some point is like, why does nobody believe that I'm a war correspondent? I even have a mustache.
He has a mustache like Ernest Hemingway.
He was like, why isn't my disguise working? Which I thought was pretty funny. He's not really pulling it off.
It's probably because he's walking around talking like Cary Grant all the time, and I'm not sure that is working for him per se. But
and he's like not asking the right question. I feel like he's asking questions, but they're not the questions a war correspondent would ask.
He's not really asked any questions. Like, he doesn't go up to anyone and ask a question. I think it's worth noting that one of the things Marvy says before he's knocked off the train is that, to his knowledge, the Schwartz Commando haven't been de-armed yet. So, Inzian's plans, they're still armed, presumably, riding trains around Germany.
Yeah, Slothrop seems just as confused by this whole interaction as perhaps you, the listener, and I, a reader, am.
Yeah. And he's also barefoot. I'm reminded looking at this page. We must remember that Slothrop doesn't have shoes right now.
He did once again get some of his clothes stolen promptly upon entering Germany.
Oh, yeah. One of the displaced people took his shoes and left a rose in between his toes.
What if it was Katja?
It reminded him of Katja. I feel like Katja is otherwise occupied, though.
I don't know. We haven't seen her since she was on a beach. On the boardwalk.
Right.
Yeah. Remember the fun day at the boardwalk?
The bad Pentecost vacation?
The rough work trip. Does Slothrop sing this little song here? Or is it just like an interlude that carries us to the next paragraph?
There's a lot of songs in this section that I think are just kind of sung by the ether. Like a Greek chorus is singing some of these songs.
Yeah. Anyways, I liked the rhyme quit kvetchen Gretchen.
Yeah.
I also liked the description immediately following the song of Nordhausen. They said the Lee is a green salad, crisp with raindrops, which I thought was a really evocative metaphor.
Does that go in our cookbook?
Green salad with raindrops.
The green salad.
Leave it outside on a dewy morning.
Well, you could craft a green salad to sort of look like the German grasslands.
There's been a lot of salads in Pynchon. There's a salad. Benny Profane works at a salad shop.
True.
Oh, yeah, that description of Nordhausen, the region is, I guess, immediately paralleled with Nordhausen, the town, which has been absolutely destroyed. Roofless houses, old people flittering among the walls. It's been looted by the people liberated from the Dora concentration camp.
Yeah, including many people incarcerated under sort of, I think this 175 is like Section 175 that outlawed like homosexual activity in Nazi Germany of like the penal code or something.
And here
and there's lots of...
Go ahead, Duri.
I was just going to say there's lots of mud.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. The rain only looks good on the salad, not on the soil.
Yeah.
And then he meets a woman playing a balalaika. I didn't like that there was a balalaika. Patrick knows why.
I liked it. But we should tell this quick, brief little story on air. In college, I went to go get a balalaika. That's the end of the story. You went with me.
I did, yeah. My Twitter profile picture was of us walking to get a balalaika for like 10 years.
Someone was selling one on Craigslist. I went there, I bought it. It was an old Soviet balalaika. I recently got rid of it because I just don't think I'm in that place in my life anymore where I needed the balalaika, but it was a good balalaika. You couldn't tune it at all. The pegs were needed some WD-40, but shout out to the balalaika. It's a great instrument. Who's playing the balalaika?
Ellie.
Gelly.
Did y'all recognize this extremely obscure pun in her name?
I did not.
This is... Where is it? Yes, this is taken from another Gilbert and Sullivan song, from HMS Pinafore, where there is a lyric, gaily tripping, lightly skipping, flock the maidens to the shipping.
Wow.
Gaily tripping.
I would not have gotten that.
Yeah, I didn't know
Thomas
that one.
Pynchon's a real musical theater nerd.
Yeah, there's several instances in here. We'll get to them that feel very musical theater. But is Geli in German? Is it pronounced gaily?
I think it would be Gelly. Probably.
Yeah, I don't know how much it is a homophonic pun or...
Gotcha.
But gaily, jelly, if you're feeling like it.
Ugh.
Probably not that one. She's singing about love, perhaps her part-time lover, Chicherin.
So Chicherin is a Soviet intelligence officer, and it says that he maintains a harem, a girl in every rocket town in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
That really rung a bell for me. Have we encountered another character that like keeps a woman in every city that he goes to?
Blacaro kind of has a harem, and he does move around with the rocket installation, but
I felt like I'd read that before, but I couldn't dig up where. I didn't know if you all would.
Slothrop sleeps with a woman every place that a rocket falls.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean...
That's fair. A girl in every rocket town, a girl in every rocket destructed neighborhood.
Is Chicherin, going to be like some separated at birth twin of Slothrop's that grew up in the Soviet Union?
That could be fun.
He sleeps with girls before the rocket launches. Or, well, so does... he sleeps with them from the rocket launch location.
Wow.
Kind of like Katja was saying, that she and Slothrop were always on the other side of each other.
Yeah.
Of the rocket.
The opposite ends of the parabola or the rainbow.
Is Chicherin some kind of talking name? Because it feels like it should be.
It seems that it's sort of pulled from just like a real name. Georgy Chicherin, more often spelled these days as Chicherin, was a Russian Marxist revolutionary and Soviet politician who was the People's Commissar for Foreign Affairs 1918 to 1930.
So a real person?
No, this does not seem to be that person, but like it is a Russian name.
I see.
That, according to this, means cold wind with rain or snow. It's a Russian slang word, according to Wikipedia. So there's several Chicherins.
It reminded me, it was very prompt because the World Cup is happening, of Chicharito, who was a Mexican soccer player with the Mexican national team, and also, I guess in the Mexican Premier League in like the 2010s. Shout out to Chicharito.
Nice. Shout out to friend of the pod. Gelly has some ideas about arrangements that I thought were kind of interesting. That it's so unorganized out in the zone that you have to have arrangements, but by nature, these arrangements are kind of temporary and ad hoc, and you just kind of fit pieces together where they make sense, and then those arrangements fall apart just as often as they're put together, and there's a vast array of arrangements, and that is kind of the from the world historical political scale down to the individual arrangement that she and Slothrop are making in Chicherin's absence. Just all arrangements. Yeah,
we see a lot of characters in these two sections who are, especially the Germans, who are Germans working now with the Allies in some capacity. And then we also see, the Russians and English and Americans all kind of moving back and forth amongst lines. Because, I guess at this point in the war, they're partitioning Germany, and Western European and American allies are going pretty cold-shouldered on the Soviets and vice versa. But here they're all still hanging out.
I feel like entropy comes up again in this couple of episodes, and we've also talked a little bit about like molecules forming, reforming, and something about these arrangements. There's this line, temporary alliances knit and undone, and this idea that sort of like different groupings of people are sort of coming together, joining up, and then drifting apart, and then joining up with other people. Like in my head was sort of evoking some sort of image of like molecules kind of connecting and then breaking apart and then reconnecting and then breaking apart.
Synthesizing and polymerizing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of feels like that's what's happening in the zone.
I think this book is saying something, man. It's trying to get us somewhere. Watch this space. We'll all find out together.
I thought it was interesting that Slothrop and Gelly hook up in a bombed out building, not unlike Roger and Jessica do in London.
I hadn't considered that.
Sure.
You're right.
Roger and Jessica's building seems in slightly better shape than Gelly and Slothrop's. Like,
Yeah, their building.
theirs does not have a roof.
Roger and Jessica's, it's only the buildings around that have been bombed. This one
That's true.
is the bombed. Yeah, they don't have a roof. They end up sleeping under a tarp. Sort of throw a tarp up on the banisters of the bed.
This Gelly is a character.
I like her.
I did too.
I think she's going places.
She has a pet owl.
Named Werner.
Yeah. Yeah, named Werner.
Is it Werner von Braun, the owl?
You know? Before there was Hedwig, there was Werner. Yeah, she, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but while we're mentioning the owl, this really does seem to be sort of like a witch and familiar relationship.
Yeah.
Oh.
They have a funny conversation where Slothrop says, "Are you a real witch?" And she goes, "I think I have tendencies." Which is a very funny way to respond to the question of whether or not you're a witch. And then she kind of, there's some like more German folklore referenced there where she talks about going up to the Brocken on Walpurgisnacht, which is, according to Wikipedia, Halloween's older, cooler cousin.
Is that what it says on Wikipedia?
Yeah. Anyways, it's a Germanic spring fest sort of associated with like a bacchanal of witches and the devil on this particular mountain peak.
It's always something going on in German forests, especially in this book, but also just in general.
You know, it's that old world forest. It's like, it's dense.
I mean, I don't remember
We're
like
scared of nature.
where I read this. I may have read it in a book, or it may have been something that like a professor said in college about a book to a class I was in. But like the idea of imagining, you know, if you are a medieval peasant, like living in the Black Forest of Germany, like you have your little farm and, you know, there's another farm down the road from you. And then like maybe your stuff gets collected and shipped off and sold at market, or collected by you know, a liege lord or something. You send your stuff off, but like if you walk in the other direction, there is the forest, and the forest is effectively endless until you get to the next place you're going. And it's like, it's almost like if you know, there's like an ocean separating you between whatever other isolated pocket of farmland there is, except that ocean, like you can't see the sky and it's filled with like wolves and stuff. And you can understand why you develop a bunch of folklore around a big kind of impenetrable forest around you.
Yeah, and like maybe want to scare your kids away from wandering off into it.
Yeah, don't go in the damn forest. I think Slothrop's going in the forest, though. I think everybody in this book keeps walking into that forest.
Well, as Proverbs for Paranoids number 5 says, paranoids are not paranoids because they're paranoid, but because they keep putting themselves, effing idiots, deliberately into paranoid situations.
Yeah, and really a choice there that Thomas Pynchon says effing instead of fucking.
I just trying to keep it
Keep it PG.
keep it clean,
Yeah, keep it
keep it
PG-13.
PG.
What do you think our content warning for strong language is talking about every episode?
That's fair. That doesn't mean I have to use the strong language.
No, you do whatever makes you comfortable. Pynchon Pals, whatever makes you comfortable. That's our slogan.
This is when Gelly mentions the Schwarzgerat.
Oh yeah, sorry. Before we get there,
Oh.
I did underline, speaking of strong language, the word soft off, which I thought was really funny.
Where's that?
Slothrop's off the bed across the room with a soft off, one sock on.
Oh, ew. Yeah,
Get it?
yeah,
You get it?
yeah. I
Yeah.
remember getting it at the time too. Now, you saying it out of context, I was lost.
Which is a good word. I don't know if Thomas Pynchon invented that one, but I've never encountered it before. Yes, Andrew, tell us about the Escarat and the rocket number quintuple 0.
So it turns out that on top of occasionally coming to Nordhausen, and while he's there staying at Gelly's, Chicharine is also getting his mail forwarded to her, and she's reading it, and she lets slip that she knows about rocket quintuple 0 and about the Schwarzgerat to Slothrop, and he initially kind of tries to act like he's not interested, and then he sort of leans into being a reporter and is like, oh no, like maybe if you give me some more baseline info, I'll be able to sell the story to my editors.
Yeah, he's interested in rocket hardware.
I could not figure out what he was saying there. Thank you for pronouncing that phonetically for me.
It's his Cary Grant impression. Hence all of the weird commas, because of Cary Grant's like up and down inflections.
What are the chances that Slothrop would hook up with a woman who happens to know about the quintuple 0 rocket?
Quite good.
Quite good.
I think he exclusively hooks up with women connected to this rocket.
I mean, yeah, she's got some Imipolex G. She's been in the vicinity.
I guess so.
Like a Musk.
Mm-hmm. She says that she posed once for a rocket insignia, a pretty young witch straddling an A4, which is a little bit of foreshadowing for all of the limericks that we get in the next section about having sex with rocket parts.
And limericks do we get? She knows Blodgett Waxwing.
Yeah, I like that Slothrop's like, must be Waxwing, and she's like, no, he really sticks to the Mediterranean. It's probably not Waxwing. And Slothrop's like, oh my god, she knows.
And then she kind of plies Slothrop to get back in bed with her, and Slothrop gets attacked by the owl.
Yep. But it works for both of them. They're both kind of turned on by the owl attack. They sort of all finish together in a big mangle of talons and feathers, which Slothrop thinks must be a kind of conditioning.
He accuses Chicharine of training Werner to, I guess, attack men who sleep with Gelly, and she says that she trained him to do that.
Gelly's great.
Yeah, shout out to Gailey. Gailey.
You commit to Gailey.
We'll find out
commit
one
to
day.
Gailey, and me and Duri will keep doing Gelly. And
Yeah,
then-
it'll be a porpentine situation. Does that bring us to the end of this section?
So it does.
Yeah, seems like it.
Wow. Zippy.
Zip, zap, zap.
Why don't we take a break and then come back for the next section?
Sounds good. Sounds like what we do.
Yeah.
per usual, Pynchon Pals will be right back. Welcome back. Here is a summary for sequence 3.2, the next sequence in the book. Slothrop's press credentials get him into Mittelwerk, the secret underground V2 factory, which U.S. Army Ordnance and General Electric engineers have turned into a combination tourist trap, funhouse, and beer hall, complete with a guided tour through the never-realized future of the German rocket state. Parabolic archways send Slothrop down into the dark, where he figures the gnomes must live, and the architectural symbolism continues through Etzel Olsch's interfacing double S-shaped tunnels, Nazi iconography, rocket guidance functions, sleeping lovers' bodies, and so on. We learned Slothrop may have embellished a little bit with the stories he told to Tantivy, but he hasn't told a soul about Katja. Things get trippy in the dark amid the out-of-time ghosts of the quote-unquote new uncertainty. Slothrop has to flee from a gang of drunken Americans when Major Marvey recognizes him, and he hitches a ride on a tunnel rail car with Professor Glimpf after donning yet another disguise. A Donkey Kong-esque rail chase ensues and continues overland into the Harz Mountains, where Slothrop ends up in a castle with a proper quote-unquote mad Nazi scientist lab run by Dr. Zwitter.
This episode kicks off with another descriptor that I really liked. It's a Sunday funnies dawn.
That is good.
Just feel like Pynchon has a knack for kind of capturing things.
Yeah. Only comics of the week in color.
Mm-hmm.
Like those good Calvin and Hobbes Sunday comics.
Yeah. And I'm old enough to remember that.
Aren't we all? They still have Sunday comics.
Do they?
Yeah.
In what newspaper?
In the ones that still exist.
Yeah. There just aren't many newspapers.
Probably.
Is the problem.
Yeah. What's that, the opening of William Gibson's Neuromancer is the sky was the color of a TV tuned to a dead channel. And there's like that old tweet that's like, if you're reading it today, it means that it's like a vibrant, saturated...
Blue?
Like blue.
Versus like grainy and fuzzy. That's funny.
Slothrop's got shoes now.
He's got his shoes back. Well, he's got chicharine shoes.
Yeah.
He's walking on streets that resemble streaky cuts of raw meat.
Ew.
So, I definitely want to have shoes on too.
Yeah, this is the quote-unquote interregnum. So, there's the army ordnance here, the English Spog has come and gone. There's Russians on horseback. This is, I believe we kind of learned precisely about this moment in one of the V2 documentaries about the, like, Midwestern army guy who was sent in to try and capture a lot of the V2 tech before the Russians could get their hands on it.
He was from Wisconsin, right?
Yeah. Whatever his name was.
Hamlin, I think. Is that right?
Good pull.
Maybe.
Probably. Let's say it's Hamlin.
Same. Let me use my mnemonic for remembering his name.
You had a mnemonic for remembering his name?
Hamill.
Hamlin. Oh, like Mark Hamill.
Yeah, that was the mnemonic. It was, but then saying Hamlin, I was like, I don't think Hamlin's right. I don't think it's Mark Hamlin.
Finally,
what is English Spog again?
Special
Spog
Operations Group, something Operations Group. It might just be Special Operations Group. It was
a real organization. It's the thing that the annoying guy who is on vacation with Pointsman. Special Projectiles Operations Group.
Special Projectiles.
Yeah. That's who he was working for.
Okay.
Spog wanted to annex Pisces, which I guess we don't know yet what has happened to Pisces, so time will tell.
We have another Pynchon cookbook item.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sandwich wagon.
There is a sandwich wagon.
We don't know exactly what's on these sandwiches, except that they are hot and cold and dripping with greens.
That's enough for me to order one. That's all I would need to know.
I don't like that they're dripping with greens.
I feel like if it's like a collard green situation, they're kind of like greens that are like a little like juicy and with like bacon grease or something. But I feel like it might be cabbage given our location and the fact that we've seen cabbage.
Dripping with sauerkraut.
Just a sauerkraut sandwich.
Which, I mean,
I guess that could be.
That would also be good.
Like a Reuben.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A hot dog with sauerkraut. Oh. Now I'm hungry.
Yeah, that's I didn't even underline that name. Yellow James the Cook. So Yellow James is here, Nick de Profundis is here, selling A4 souvenirs, and then there's Micro Graham, who
Good one.
Wants folks to take the tour he has put together.
Yeah, this whole idea of how do you pronounce it again? Mittelwerk. Which doesn't cease to like keep reminding me of Mordor, although Mordor like preceded Mittelwerk.
Yeah, although are you sure you're not thinking of Isengard?
Which one's the mountain?
The mountain is Mordor.
Bunch of people working underneath it. That's the one I'm thinking.
But the one where
Mordor is the kingdom around the mountain. It is not the mountain.
You're thinking of Mount Doom in Mordor, but it doesn't really have a lot of people working in it because the people working underground that I think you're thinking of is in Isengard.
The like orcs?
Yeah.
Interesting. I kind of conflated all those places in my brain.
Now, which of the three towers in that book are the eponymous two towers?
Jesus.
Stop the podcast. There's important work to be done.
Anyway, Mittelwerk, the real location, continues to remind me of various different spaces in The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a coincidence that The Lord of the Rings was largely inspired by Tolkien's experience with like the industrialization of World War I. So it stands to reason that there would be, and also in the way that this book is pulling on sort of, again, this like Germanic sort of kingdom under the mountain folklore that Tolkien was also pulling on.
That like, maybe some of the Nazis were also pulling on. Like
it's all embroiled here.
Yeah. Anyways, I had something else to say that wasn't about Lord of the Rings.
Do we need to explain it all for folks who have not listened to our bonus pod about Mittelwerk, just generally?
Let's not. Let's gatekeep it.
It's a real place.
Yeah, this is where the V2 production mainly moved after the British found out about Peenemünde and bombed it.
It was a former
and
mine.
As we learn later here, was like largely run by slave labor from the adjacent concentration camp Dora.
Yeah, they picked a former mine in the mountain, dug it out some more, and then built a was it a subsidiary of Dachau? We talked about this, and I haven't forgotten. Oh no, it was a subsidiary of Bunsen of Bergen. I messed the name up. Yeah. I think it was.
Yeah,
I'll get back up. Looking it up because I've forgotten. Middlebrow Dora, originally a sub camp. Oh, just tell me where. Sub camp of who? Oh my god, Wikipedia's letting me. Buchenwald. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. We got there.
For more on that, go to the Patreon episode. But suffice it to say,
and that's the last time we're going to plug the episode about this historical atrocity, but we do talk about it in that episode.
I remember what I was going to say earlier, which was that this whole idea that this historical atrocity has been turned into very quickly, like in very short order, has been turned into sort of a tourist trap for everyone who may be in the zone, feels extremely Pynchon-esque. And the idea that like they've constructed souvenirs from the bits of the rockets also feels very in line with some of the stuff we see in V about souvenirs and tchotchkes sort of being created from the bones of the dead.
Yeah, tourism writ large. Yeah, I figured some of this must be Pynchonian embellishment in terms of like down to the tour and hawking stuff, but absolutely people were taking little trophies from these places, certainly, and selling them or sending them home or taking them with them.
Yeah, for sure. Even if it was just like, you know, within the army, you know, you better bet some American GIs were taking some souvenirs to take back home to their ladies, as Pynchon suggests.
Who doesn't want the burner cups of brass off the combustion chamber?
You know,
Can't afford a diamond, make a ring out of the crystal they used in the guidance system.
they were probably both produced with slave labor.
Yeah. Okay, so we get to the tour here of the rocket state, the waltz of the future. They got spacesuits. This also feels strongly... It feels like it strongly echoes the sort of like Wild West imagery that keeps appearing throughout here. They got space jockeys with electric whips and horses of polished meteorite.
I got a little lost in this space opera, I'll be honest.
I mean...
All right, Patrick.
I was just going to say that it feels like this is like an Epcot exhibit. This is like World of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
See the future that could be with German rocketry.
Yeah, you're sort of going room to room. I think they talk about at some point sort of portaging between the lights that have been that in between like lakes of light where the bulbs haven't been smashed by the prisoners on their escape. For an extra fee, you get to try the space helmets on. That's really exciting.
Did anyone else feel that the space helmet that's described as
fashioned from a skull?
Yeah, skull of a man-like creature built to a larger scale, eye sockets with quartz lenses, filters, nasal bone and upper teeth have been replaced by a metal breathing apparatus full of slots and grating. There's a facial cod piece where the jaw should be. This just sounded like Darth Vader's helmet.
Yeah.
It also reminded me a lot of V.
Yeah.
Like with the facial reconstruction that we see in V, and also V herself being sort of comprised of cogs and machinery. A very cyborg situation going on here.
Also kind of sounds like a Space Marine helmet for those Warhammer 40,000 fans out there, which I guess all of this is just pulling from sort of pulp science fiction of the 40s, so it is all of a piece.
Yeah, the sound of your breath hissing up was definitely giving Darth Vader for me.
Yeah, they talk about being made of iron and ebonite. I can only assume ebonite is also black.
Yeah, this is a lot of the... we talked at one point about the rocket being at the barrier between atmosphere and outer space, and it's like bright on one side and black on the other, and here too we get, alongside these like sort of pools of light that are still from the remaining light bulbs, there's this quote, thrusting forward in black fatality. And not coincidentally, adjacent to all of this is the compartment, which is a choice of word here, that the Schwarz Commando were quartered in. Featuring milk calabashes made from some plastic. Tradition says Enzian had his illumination here, and they seem to have, like... This also seems to be part of the tour that is constructed here, where they have reconstructed the remains of a wet dream from soap and bleach.
Yeah, we don't find out I don't think we find out what Inzian's capital I illumination is, but
sure we will.
Perhaps we will.
We're gonna return to this section and be like, the illumination.
The illumination.
Wonder if it has anything to do with Impolix G.
Bet it does. Everything's got a little something to do with everything in this book.
Mm-hmm.
There's paintings on the walls of the Rocket State and Rocket City. This is what really... I wrote entropy in the margins next to this, Duri, speaking of entropy in the last section. This Rocket City, so white, lit against the calm dimness of space, is set up to deliberately to avoid symmetry, allow complexity, introduce terror, from the preamble to the articles of imagination. And the tourists looking at it connect this imagery back to, quote, the wine bottle smashed in the basin, the bristlecone pines outracing death for millennia, concrete roads abandoned years ago, hairdos of the late 1930s, indole molecules, especially polymerized indoles, as in Impolix G, various states of entropy, sort of ordered states progressing into disordered states. They also seems to be, or at least Slothrop imagines that they might be reading his mind as he is going through this.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of a neat little transition that Pynchon did there, where they're kind of like going through these thoughts, and then he starts thinking about Impolix G, and then he imagines that someone's trying to get a fix on who exactly is thinking that. But he gives them the slip.
He stays paranoid, that Tyrone. It took me a long time to realize, and I eventually just had to look it up because I was not getting it, that Stollen means tunnel.
That is really helpful, because when I looked up the word Stollen, all I got was a German bread. Yeah. And I was like, that can't be what this is.
That's the first definition that comes up, is the stolen, like, fruitcake bread, but it also means tunnel.
Thank you.
There's a good line here that one of the sweetest victories after sleep and looting must be the chance to ignore no parking signs.
I thought that was fun.
That was great. As they sort of drive up to the opening of Middelburg, and I guess unlike you'd expect perhaps the American army to have shut this down and you wouldn't be allowed to get through, but in fact it's just so jammed with cars that everyone's sort of double parked. Then we get a lot about the shape of the tunnel.
A lot.
Yeah, it's shaped like a parabola, which reminded me, not so long ago, Patrick and I went to Barcelona and saw a variety of Gaudi architecture, which has a lot of parabolas.
Indeed.
A lot of parabolic arches to support the structures.
I'm not so convinced parabola is a great tunnel shape. I'm just gonna throw that out there. It seems impractical.
At least in one of the parabolic rooms, they had an example of the way Gaudi designed some of the like large scale parabolic rooms or tunnels. Is like there's one that's like an attic on top of the quarry building that Gaudi designed. I'll put a link in the show notes. That doesn't really matter. The point is, it's like if you hung string upside down and like built the arches from the curvature that gravity pulled down on the string, and then he like put a mirror underneath it and just designed the building around the arches that gravity was pulling down.
Yeah.
Just kind of neat.
Rainbow.
Gravity's rainbow. That's how he arrived at the parabolic arches. I mean, I think for like a fun building, that's a good idea. I guess I mean more like if you were like, oh yeah, how wide does it? Like, very quickly, it's so much taller than it is wide. Yeah. Like for digging into a mountain, I mean, it's a bad shape because if you need it to be like 2 feet wider to fit a bigger rocket, you have to make it significantly taller.
It's structurally stable, though. I think one of the things they talked about was how you didn't have to have a bunch of pillars.
Yeah.
When you had the parabolic arches, so it let Gaudi create these like big open rooms, which is less important in a mountain. But I guess it would allow a positive would be that it would allow you to like move a rocket in and out without having to like manipulate it around pillars, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that with a semicircle too, though.
But it wouldn't have the same.
It wouldn't have the same. The same
metaphorical echo of how the rocket itself travels. They talk about Albert Speer, who's also a real guy
who came up in the documentaries.
Did he really?
Yeah,
I forgot. He was convicted at Nuremberg.
Yeah, he is real, but this Etzel Olsch is not real. But Etzel is the sort of Germanic mythology name given to Attila the Hun, which is why Attila the Hun comes up here. Unfortunately, at least according to Weisenberger, reviewing all of the sources, Pynchon is kind of inventing some things about the design of Mittelwerk here.
Shocker.
Weisenberger writes, all the sources agree, including Dornberger is one of the sources, so he's also in the documentaries that we watch. Instead of Pynchon's 44 cross tunnels linked to 2 main tunnels in ladder-like fashion, there were 47 rather irregularly spaced cross tunnels. The double S configuration is also Pynchon's fiction, a sigmoid fraud that becomes suggestive in its links to related images. Some also think that this commenters have taken this to be representative of like a double helix DNA strand.
That was my thought on it when they were talking about how it was designed. I was like, oh, this is sort of as if you'd laid a double helix out, sort of unwound, perhaps. Not in 3D.
Yeah, but the architect we get here we get some brief episodes from his past involving an exploding cigar. He has a kind of death wish that leaches into his architectural designs.
There's a lot of mathematical discussion of the 2 S's resembling the double integral sign.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get more into that, I've actually got a Weisenberger question for Patrick.
Yes.
Because we get...
Let me consult the oracle.
Towards the end of page 303, we get a second, so far in the Pynchon oeuvre, mention of Sphasim, and I want to know if Weisenberger figured out what that was. Where,
Yes, let's see.
J. Cary Grant couldn't.
I believe, sorta, kinda. Weisenberger writes, from the Italian noun sfacimento, wreck or ruin, thus, how long you reckon this country. Note also a pun on Dis, Dante's underground hell. But I believe the Pynchon wiki pulls together some more sources and notes that it is related to semen.
Thank you, Pynchon wiki.
And given that we encountered semen on the last couple of pages, that checks out.
Also on the bottom of 303, we get a reference to a Wagner opera.
Mm-hmm.
Tannhauser, which is, as far as I can tell, an opera about sort of like descending into like a subterranean underground realm where like Venus is sort of in a cave.
Yeah, this also, would you believe, comes up in V.
Does it really?
Yeah, here's a deep pull for you, because I've been on this Wikipedia page before. The woman across the hall from Slothrop's parents who tried to seduce him when he was younger.
Benny Profane's parents?
Benny Profane. Who did I say?
I was like, whoa, Slothrop was in
No, not
V?
Slothrop. All the characters are blending together. No, across from Benny Profane's parents' house in V lived the Venusbergs.
Oh.
So the like underground mountain of Venus thing, also in reference to like the anatomical mound of Venus, comes up several times in the Pynchon books we've read. But there is no horniness here. Just gnomes and critters. Which has an interesting association with the sort of like slave labor implications of the environs. But also is very Germanic folklore, sort of magic mountain business. Do you have something else to say about the Tannhauser Duri? I'm sorry I cut you off. I was excited to bring up the V connection. I didn't think I was going to find a segue to it.
No, that's fine. That's all I had to say. I just wanted to note that.
I did like this line, the comfort of a closed place where everyone is in complete agreement about death. Slothrop knows this place, not so much from maps he had to study at the casino, as knowing it in the way you know someone is there.
A lot of discussion of light and dark as we kind of descend into the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Discussion of how the first thing that the prisoners from the concentration camp did was take out the light bulbs.
Is electrical socket really the same word for mother, Andrew? Do you recall that from your journey?
I don't know if electrical socket ever came up in a lot of conversation. So I'm going to assume that yes, of course it is.
Sounds like a weird thing to make up.
What does it mean that I was confused that socketless. Does it just mean they're like gas lamps? What is a socketless light bulb?
Yeah, I don't know. But unless it just means... Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because they're out of their socket, they are socketless.
Oh, yeah. The light bulbs are socketless after you take them out of the socket, I guess.
So they're motherless, they're socketless.
Oh.
Well, and sort of the...
Wait, weren't the light bulbs being smashed? Were they being meticulously unscrewed? Am I stupid? Did I just misunderstand something?
It doesn't really specify.
I guess I just wouldn't have assumed Dora prisoners on a rampage were politely unscrewing light bulbs.
Yeah, now I'm not sure.
It says they were looting them. I guess it's not much use to loot a broken bulb.
But what do you need a bunch of light bulbs for?
I don't know. Maybe they sell for good money.
Weisenberger, this doesn't totally answer the question, but Weisenberger says about the mother business, well, maybe. German standard and technical lexicons indicate that the word for an electrical socket is Anschlussdose, and that for a sleeve socket, for example, in plastic piping, is Muffe, also slang for the vagina. That's your mother connection.
He really went deep on some German technical language.
Seems like
why.
Yeah, he may have been pulling some Tyrone Slothrop late nights at study hall for writing this book. Shall we talk about the S's?
Let's talk about the S's.
We got to talk about the S's.
What is calculus?
Ooh.
Take it away, y'all.
Studies of rates of change.
Such as? What is change?
I'm tapping out. The different.
Tell me if this is right. Is a rate of change when something happens over the course of another thing?
Yeah, I think that's a good definition for that.
So oftentimes it would be like distance happening over time.
Yeah. A change in position over time.
But you could also theoretically have it over other things. It doesn't necessarily have to be time. You could have two different things progressing, and you could find the change in rate between those two things.
Yeah, you could be talking about like the weight of something versus its volume, or like vice versa. Like as you're increasing the volume, how is the weight changing? Like if you wanted to do that. But yeah, you have a fixed variable. You'd have a fixed variable and an independent and a dependent variable.
And then let's just get to the bottom. What is integration and derivation? Because let's imagine that we have listeners who are reading this and are like, man, I hope Pynchon Pals will explain what a double integral means.
Oh, man.
Because they're where I go to understand Pynchon.
When's the last time you took calculus, Andrew?
In college.
Same. But I feel like you probably use it more in your daily life than I do.
No, I don't.
No?
No, I don't do it. I do very little
I'm back
derivations in day-to-day.
I'm back in AP calculus in high school, and I only took the first part of that, so.
Derivation, you like differentiate something. I mean, you're like looking at sort of it like comes from looking at like minute differences over like increasingly small scales of time, right? So like you get the derivative of a function is sort of a continuation of if you're just looking at that function in a at like a very small scale, you're like, well, just what is the change like in value between a small like say a small time step forward, what is the change of value in your finding like, position in this example? You're looking at like
correct. You go ahead.
Well, so differentiation is interested in taking your like known change over time or over some variable and like looking at like small segments of that change. And then integration is sort of the opposite, where you go from like knowledge of lots of small changes to like a final description of like what was occurring.
Yeah, so if I recall correctly, like if you integrate, you can figure out the like area under a curve, and if you double integrate, you like get another dimension, so you could figure out like the volume under a shape.
Yeah, so I mean, like your go-to example would be like is always like position, right? So if you have a plot of something's position over time,
which would look kind of like possibly a curve.
Yeah, some kind of curve, or just like even a straight line. Then if you differentiate that information, you have basically your speed, right? Your like rate of change. And then you can differentiate that again. You can have a rate of change. So if like your car, so okay, let's just say your car is driving, and at time 0, you're at location 0, and at time 1 hour, you're at mile 60. You know your position through that time. You can differentiate that, and you can be like, oh, the speed was 60 miles an hour, say. And you could sort of on average maybe, and then you can differentiate it again. You say, okay, like at times the car was accelerating or was deaccelerating.
Yeah, this is what acceleration is.
Yeah, like acceleration is
a kind
the
of calculus thing.
Derivative of velocity, which is the derivative of position.
And then acceleration is the change in speed, which is the change in position over time.
Yeah, and then so vice versa. If you know something's acceleration, you can find its velocity at any given time, and then once you know all of its velocities in a given time window, you can find its change in position.
And in order to do that, you put an S in front of it.
Yeah, you put a big
or
old...
not exactly an S, but it's got
a
big old S.
You put a big old S and you put a DT at the end.
You put a big old S in front of your velocity, and that gets you your speed. Hi, Future Patrick here. That is your acceleration, not your velocity.
Yeah.
And then you put a big old S in front of your speed, and you get position.
Yeah, so you can do that piecemeal where you do like one step at a time, or you can throw 2 big S's in front of your equation, and you can integrate twice in quick succession, which is what Thomas Pynchon is going on about here. Although one time he only integrates once. He talks about integration twice, and then he only integrates one time, but that's okay. It works for the metaphor. But I was like, I'm pretty sure this is only a single integration.
I think that was a pretty good explanation.
Yeah.
Kind of came back to me in the moment.
Here's a fun bit of lore that both of y'all know, but I did as like a final project in that very AP calculus class. I did a rap about calculus with some other mutual friends of the pod.
That's so high school of you.
Well, but one of the lines was you integrate a function to derive in reverse. And that's how I've always remembered integration. My own calculus rap has always helped me.
That's
so maybe
and that's what you know. I feel like we're really putting in plugs for mnemonics in this episode.
Yeah, I feel like when I was taking calculus, they always start with derivatives. We start with limits, and then you go to derivatives. And the limit stuff, you're really like, this doesn't relate to anything. And then you get to derivatives, and you're like, okay, I'm doing these questions and I'm getting answers. And then you get to integrals and you're like, oh, I see how the integrals fit in with the derivatives. Like that makes sense. Like we're going backwards now. So then it's hard to describe derivatives first because I just think of derivatives as the opposite of integrals. And integrals, I feel like I have a firm hand on.
I mean, isn't this exactly what Thomas Pynchon does in this book? Weren't we introduced to the concept of a function approaching a limit earlier in the book? And now we're getting introduced to the concept of integrals?
Is Gravity's Rainbow a math textbook?
That's what I'm saying. I think you could do
a lot of other stuff thrown in there.
A whole first year of study just based off of things mentioned in Gravity's Rainbow.
That'd be a fun class.
Oh no, I think it's all of your classes. I don't think it's one class. It's math,
just
science, history.
It's like the world.
Your whole freshman year
You get history, you get math, you get literature.
Look, your textbook.
Science.
Your textbook costs would go way down if you just had to buy one $21 novel.
I think you could make it happen. You could teach about electricity. You
chemistry.
Could teach about like polymers, calculus, history.
Yep. You get it all. So this is
psychology.
You'd be a real Renaissance learner, you know.
Got it all.
So yes, this gets us into the discussion of the rocket's guidance system, which uses basically two cells, one of which is preloaded with a charge, and the other of which charges over time based on the positioning of some coils inside the rocket. And so once those two charges, once the charge that is building up in flight equals the charge that was preset, the rocket stops the fuel, and that is how it gets to its Brennschluss.
I think you could just put a certain amount of fuel in. That's kind of what I was assuming they were doing. They were just like, it takes this much fuel, thus when the fuel goes to zero, the rocket inherently shuts down. But it's fun that they had some electronics.
They probably tried that. That seems like it would be your first idea, is we'll just put a certain amount of fuel.
Just exactly the amount that you need, and then when it runs out, the engine stalls.
And then you try it a second time and it goes way further and you're like, okay, well, putting the fuel in can't be the way to do it.
I liked that this was described as an elaborate dance of design precautions to get to what human eyes saw first of all, the distance along the flight path. I've been thinking a lot recently for some of my work about how humans think differently from machines. And like what's easy for people to notice is oftentimes hard for machines to notice. And what comes easily to machines is sometimes hard for us to grasp at our kind of level of abstraction. And I thought that was an interesting line.
Well, it's interesting when you think about the fact, like, again, the documentaries we read touched on this, is that they weren't like telemetering data back to a control room the way you think of like NASA doing nowadays, where you're like tracking things with radar and you're tracking things with GPS measurements. And like here, they're just launching the rocket and like physically watching it travel through space. And then, through space being, through the air, not through outer space. And then having to like take measurements of its position over time to understand its acceleration. Like that is what you would be doing, is being like, okay, 20 seconds after they light the fuse, it's gone this distance, and like the intermediate readings tell you how fast it's accelerating and stuff. So you're like actually doing that. Like that's how the science would have been done, the engineering.
I can imagine how frustrating or maybe challenging, depending on your perspective, it would be as an engineer to like see something and intuitively know like now is when it should shut off, but you have no way of telling the rocket that. Like there's no remote control that you can hit that tells the rocket to turn off the gas, and so you have to like engineer this like very complex device so that the rocket has some sort of internal intelligence.
Yeah. And I mean, this is also before software, right? Like software now, it's again very easy to be like, okay, I'm going to write a clock function and I'm going to call the clock function once a computer cycle. And once the clock function reaches 25 seconds, stop.
Yeah,
issue a stop command.
What was that controversy a few years back in Formula One, Andrew, where Ferrari was injecting extra fuel in between the readings of like the fuel flow?
Whoa. Ferrari didn't do anything wrong. They didn't do anything.
I'm not saying they did. Look, I'm not saying, I want to be clear, I'm not saying they broke the rules, because it wasn't a rule until after they did it.
They didn't break any rules. The rule was,
they didn't do anything
the rule
wrong.
Was the measurement got taken, and when the measurement was taken, you had to be below a certain value. It didn't say anything about what the value should be outside of when the measurement was being taken.
Yeah, but this is precisely this problem, is sort of like taking measurements at instants in time for what could be a variable function.
Yeah. You have to, the example I had a professor use in an algorithms class is that you have to be sampling. It's something like you have to sample at like twice the rate of like what is happening to have an understanding of what's going on. Because you could think of like if I was looking at a clock, and I looked at the clock every 15 minutes, I would see that it, moved from 12 to 3 to 6 to 9 to 12. But if I looked at the clock every 45 minutes, I would assume it was moving from 9 to 6 to 3 to 12.
Mm.
So you have to be... So if you've got bad sampling rate,
sure.
You don't know what's happening, is what I'm trying to say. Is it could be moving backwards slowly or forwards quickly, and there's no way to know.
Damn. I'm glad that I don't think we've ever talked about anything quite as long as we have talked about deriving functions or integrating functions. Go us. There's the shape of the tunnels down here. We got more ancient runes. Stephen Dodson Truck was right all along. It all goes back to the runic metaphors and likenesses. Yew tree or death. And this notion that at a point in space, a point hung precise as the point where burning must end, never launch, never to fall. What is that specific shape whose center of gravity is the branchless point? Don't jump at an infinite number of possible shapes. There's only one. It is most likely an interface between one order of things and another.
It's the parabola, right?
I think it's the parabola. Yeah. Is it the parabola?
Yeah.
I hope it's the parabola.
It better be the parabola.
Yeah. Well, there's that word interface coming up again, and I feel like you've been talking a lot, Patrick, about like where like white meets black and like the interface points between light and darkness.
Mm-hmm.
The Branchlus is sort of the interface between the two halves of the parabola.
Well, it's interesting. If you Google Branchlus, in fact, there's an article here on a blog by Niklas Rewald all about the Branchlus point. And
interesting. The point happens before the top of the parabola.
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically.
You'd continue to glide up until gravity. Because your rocket isn't... If you were shooting a cannon, you'd be shooting a parabola, right? A cannon effectively is an impulse of acceleration that is speeding up your projectile. And then the moment that impulse is done, the only force acting on you is gravity. And so whatever your angle of your like cannon barrel is, you impart that much of the force into a like up and down velocity, or an up velocity. Gravity's acting at a down velocity. You get a parabolic shape. But a rocket, the engine is on until the engine turns off. So that would be much closer to like, especially if it's a guided rocket like this is, it's going to be attempting to steer itself. It's probably much closer to a straight line. You know, some diagonal line of it moving up, and then at that point it goes into a ballistic trajectory where like that is the final time that there was a force being impacted on the rocket, and then whatever your velocity there is, then gravity is the only thing, and you go parabolic at that point. So you would get like an actual rocket like that would be like an actual like ballistic missile like that is like a straighter line, and then a parabola from much, you know, not from the ground, but from 100 miles up or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it works for the metaphor. I'm also realizing that I think Nicholas from this blog has sent us an email before. So shout out to Nicholas.
Nicholas, please let us know if we messed anything up with the math.
Yeah. Please do. We will. I'll link to this in the show notes. So we're back to the S's at this point. The shape of lovers curled asleep, as with Katja and Slothrop. Here is where we learn that Slothrop may have not been entirely truthful with all of the names and locations on his map. Some of them might have been fantasies. Some of the names might have been switched around. It's possible that this is why the folks on Pointsman's payroll have not been having a lot of luck tracking down the Darlenes of the world.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny that these two guys are sort of hunting around for a bunch of kind of fake identities, or I guess the stories were true, but also maybe partially not.
Yeah, or he's like inserted some like, wow, it would have been great if I'd had sex over here.
Yeah.
I felt like I wanted to have sex over here.
Which is so funny because they've invested so much money in figuring out why Slothrop's... I feel like this is just top tier Pynchon of like this whole research group, and like funding has been invested. Many people's salaries have been paid to investigate why Slothrop is sleeping with women in these patterns. And as it turns out, he may not, like, the patterns may not even be there. Like, it may have just been coincidence that he told these stories.
The idea that he, like, once while out in the field hooked up with someone, came back, told Tantivy and, like, marked it on the map, and then another time was out in the field, failed to hook up with someone, and on the way back was like, I don't want Tantivy to think I'm a loser, and then just said he did it again.
Well, yeah, because it still goes in line with like the point. The point is that if he was fantasizing about having sex with someone at a certain place and time, it's still got the Imipolex G it's smell hanging over it.
Yeah, it's just his arousal, which is what's important, not the
actual act.
Unless it's still about the girls. Seems like it might not be about the girls if he was just making up some of the girls. The penis he thought was his own song comes back here. It's always fun. Always good to see an old friend. Call back.
And then we get into the rocket. No, wait. I skipped a page, sorry.
This is where I said in my summary that things start getting kind of trippy. You start feeling, quote, the nostalgia you feel is not your own, but it's potent. It's not the attic horror of what might have happened so much as for our knowledge of what likely did happen. The barn swallow souls, fashioned of brown twilight, rise toward the white ceilings. They are unique to the zone. They answer to the new uncertainty. Down here are only wrappings left in the light, in the dark, images of the uncertainty.
Yeah, I liked this line, the bureaucracy of mass absence. Some still live, some have died, but many, many have forgotten which they are. And so it sort of seems like this underground space is sort of being haunted a little bit.
Yeah, it's sort of like haunted and also not haunted at the same time. Like it's filled and absent. I mean, there's probably like a real sort of Jacques Derrida reading you could do here of absence versus presence and things that are sort of halfway caught between one and the other. But it is an interesting reckoning with like a sort of space of atrocity and like organized atrocity that has sort of ripples out into the world beyond this space. I don't know who the goat god is. All I can think of is Pan, maybe?
Devil?
The devil.
Yeah, because we have a lot
god.
of witch devil imagery.
Yeah. We shall see.
I like this description that as Slothrop, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but as he goes deeper into the tunnels, like as he goes deeper into the mountain, he, quote, retraces the rocket's becoming.
Yeah.
Which I thought was, I don't know, I thought it was interesting. We've talked a lot about like assembly and disassembly, and as, you know, the rocket gets assembled and then moves out of the mountain, but as Slothrop is entering the mountain, the rocket is sort of becoming disassembled. And he's seeing all the parts and components that make it up.
Well, it's kind of fascinating for him because he's spent all this time studying these things, and he's like occasionally seen the wreckage, and he's certainly seen the destruction that it has wrought. And then now it's just like, wow, those are the tail fins.
This is where the sausage gets made.
Yeah. He also, maybe it's the Imipolex G talking, but he seems to fantasize about a delegation of girls in tight pink lab coats who throw him into a multi-day long orgy.
Yeah, that paragraph just kind of came and went.
These are the girls, the hula girls who are making leis of rocket gasketry.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
And then, lo and behold, in true Pynchon-esque fashion, Slothrop finds himself sort of in a beer hall in the middle of the mountain.
It's not a tourist trap if it doesn't have a beer hall, I think is a statement Thomas Pynchon would agree with.
It's not a hub of sort of people of multiple nationalities if there isn't a German beer hall there.
Yeah. The glass wool insulation that we see in the Army training video about the V2 rocket that we watched.
Oh, yeah, that big fluffy stuff?
During the Patreon episode?
Yeah, during the Patreon episode. That shows up here. I was like, glass wool, just like the V2 had.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a crowd of Americans and Russians. Big beer barrel. The Americans are singing a number of rocket limericks. What was your favorite rocket limerick?
How to choose. How to choose. Oh, I know my favorite.
What's your favorite?
It's the one about Moorhead.
Can you stand to read it?
Yeah. There once was a fellow named Moorhead who had an affair with a warhead. His wife moved away the very next day. She was always kind of a sorehead. I liked that one because I thought the word sorehead was funny.
I was a big fan of the Hector one that precedes Moorhead.
Go ahead and read that one, please.
There was a young fellow named Hector who was fond of a launcher erector, but the squishes and pops of acute pressure drops wrecked Hector's hydraulic connector. Great stuff.
I'm going to go with, I'm really caught between two of them. I like the one about the oscilloscope, but the one that really stood out the most to me was it's a little later that they're chanting it on, it sounds like they're on megaphones in a massed chorale. There once was a fellow named Slattery. Oh shit, says Slothrop, who was fond of the coarse gyro battery. With that 50-volt shock, what was left of his cock was all slimy and sloppy and spattery.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think that's the most gruesome one.
All of
The Yuri one is also good. Can we just read that one while we're here?
Yeah, while we're
Let's just keep reading them. There was a young fellow named Duri, fucked the nozzle right up its venturi. He had woes without cease from the local police and a hell of a time with the jury. Hilarious.
What do you think went on the cutting room floor when Thomas was writing this
There were
section?
probably
How many
so
of
many
these
limericks.
didn't get in?
That better be in the archives released on the sad day.
Limericks
Oh my
extended
goodness.
edition.
Oh my god.
Just dozens of
all
them.
of these Americans singing all these limericks, sort of hanging from ladders and draped over catwalks.
You gonna
As
say it
Pynchon
reminds you of
says-
the Great Mouse Detective?
What?
Are you gonna
No,
say-
no. I was gonna say it reminds me of. It's a very musical theater scene.
Yes.
I'm picturing like a set and like people are hanging from ladders and like they're singing the background chorus.
It did bother me. I think there's an extra 2 in the first one. There once was a thing called the V2, to pilot which you did not need to. I think grammatically there should only be 1 2 in that second line. To pilot which you did not need. You did not need to pilot. Which you did not need to pilot.
What about
Right.
in order to pilot, you did not need to do something?
It could also be that.
Yeah, I think that is it's like pulling whatever to blank, that like verb is being pulled so that it rhymes with V2, obviously. But it is perhaps, maybe that's why they start with that one. Like, let's get the
Maybe there's like a hand gesture is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Like
you're
to pilot which you did not need to.
Self-censoring. For whatever reason, they've self-censored this time.
I could see that.
Look, the World War I pilots, they were flying with a stick, you know.
Yeah, I'm not sure that rhyming V2 with 2 is the most clever rhyme either.
Well, it rhymes later with 2, so.
And the next one they rhymed enough and enough. That one's really the hard.
Yeah.
That one's really the worst for rhyming. That second one.
Well, it's cat's enough and that's enough at least.
Yeah, but
There's a name for that kind of. Anyways,
it's not Moorhead and Sorehead, is
No.
all
it's
I'm
not,
saying.
no.
there's an association drawn here between American fraternity boys and German stormtroopers
Checks out.
that I thought was interesting.
Send it to the presses.
And I also liked Slothrop's description of this as a clear and present miasma of evil.
I feel like we should talk about Slothrop's entrance into this space,
Yeah.
where, as far as I can understand, he seemed to be sort of above looking down on this whole situation.
Correct.
And then the only way to get down, and Slothrop was quite hungry and thought he might be able to find food down there. And the only way to get down was to sort of go down this like cable.
You'd be like winched down by
that like someone lowers down.
by some private.
Yeah, like goes down a shaft. And the private really like pulls a joke on Slothrop
It's a
and
funny bit. How could you not?
Yeah.
just sort of like drops him for a good chunk of the fall, and Slothrop thinks he's going to crash to his death, and then he catches it at the private catches it at the last minute, and then everyone's laughing at him, but he has sort of an ungraceful landing and ends up being sort of carried into the event by his foot, which was reminiscent of, and he points this out, his family friend Lyle Bland carrying him by the foot when he was a little kid.
Yeah, probably for no nefarious reasons.
Certainly not in like a I'm holding him away. Holding him out like a chicken.
Yeah. just wafting little Slothrop in front of a big vat of Imipolex G.
If Slothrop gets like hit in the ankle by a V2 rocket, I'm gonna be pissed.
You think they dunked him in it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, full on Achilles, if that's his weakness.
It's cold beer here, but it's mostly head. And then Major Marvy shows up.
And sort of sicks all of the partygoers on Slothrop.
Really great line here of Marvy's mothers are all singing for He's a Jolly Good Fellow Now, which nobody can deny if they know what's good for them, is the impression one cannot help receiving. It's interesting here that Major Marvy comes up and Slothrop is like, I do gotta get the hell out of here. Major Marvy just associates Slothrop with getting thrown off the train, I guess.
Well, yeah, he was there when he got
thrown off the train.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's like, you know.
It stands to reason you would go get that guy.
Yeah, if I was around when a major got pushed off a train, and
You didn't try to help.
I didn't try to help in a way that the major could see, and then I ran into that major later, I'd be like, I should probably try to sneak out. Like, I don't think it's going to go well for me, even if you're not necessarily the one. We know Major Marvy's not like, doesn't seem like a cool, level-headed guy.
He's not a stand-up guy, no. What'd they say? His eyes look like valves that might explode if his head gets too hot or something.
Also, they don't think Slothrop is American.
That feels very Looney Tunes.
I think if Slothrop
that's true.
was American, you know, you can maybe be like, oh man, are you okay, Major Marvy? I got that guy for you. But he's not here. He's dressed British. And he's speaking with an accent.
Yeah. Speaking of Looney Tunes and Roger Rabbit, this is a real, like, the private or somebody wakes up with a machine gun or a submachine gun and blasts the beer barrel apart, and then everybody is like slipping and sliding around on the rushing beer.
This whole sequence, starting like now, continuing for several pages, basically to the end as we go through, train chase, car chase, feels straight out of Roger Rabbit.
There is like Scooby-Doo chase music being played through this in my brain. And if you were adapting Thomas Pynchon's Gravity's Rainbow into a video game in like the 1980s, I think this section would be an extremely difficult level that like 95% of 12-year-olds are unable to get through because they keep falling in a pit in the train. Do you know how to beat the Middlewerk train car chase? I can't get out. Is there a cheat code?
I also wrote down feels like a video game.
Yeah, Slothrop's salvation here is an elderly man in a tweed suit with white water buffalo mustaches, who is Professor Glimpf. And Slothrop, who in his own way is a kind of Herbert Stencil-esque quick change artist, ducks into some overalls splattered with Nazi colors and trims his mustache with a pocket knife and now kind of has a Hitler mustache.
Yeah, so the chase starts, he climbs up a ladder to get out of the hole that he's at, the literal hole that he's in, and the metaphorical hole that he's in. He like slips in some paint and crashes at Glimpf's feet and then quickly puts on the coveralls.
Did you guys look up what the word glimpf means?
No. Is it something gross and sexual?
No, actually. It perfectly describes how this chapter ends. Glimpf means a favorable resolution of like a difficult situation. Like you found yourself in a fix and then you like suddenly have a resolution where you end up not really facing any of the consequences that you thought you were going to face.
Is this a German word?
I
A
think
Yiddish
so.
word?
No, it's an archaic or rarely used noun. Obsolete in modern German, but it is a German word.
Huh. Okay.
Bring it back.
Sure. Bring back glimpf.
Glimpf. An outcome that turns out surprisingly well. Which I do feel like, Slothrop just rolls up at this guy's feet, and what seems like a dire situation, he suddenly has an out.
Yeah, Glimpf suggests that they try to sort of like, they duck into it in one of these other tunnels, and they should try to distract the pursuers. And Slothrop's like, I got it, I'll insult them. And then he thinks, no, wait, I can insult them and be more racist about it. That's his American attitude breaking through.
The initial insult that he comes up with, which is just, Major Marvy sucks, was really funny. I was like, if you're on the spot, you're running away from an army, you really don't come up with your best content right there.
Yeah. Sometimes you should quit while you're ahead.
Yeah.
Or while you're ahead. Well, then you realize, he makes it worse for himself. And we won't read that one. But then he comes up with a good one about Major Marvy's mother but he's already running, so it's too late to yell that one back.
Yeah, it's too late. This is where a lot of this sort of like whiteness and blackness energy really comes to a kind of a fever pitch here. They cut the lights, and so we see Slothrop is using the wall then for guidance through this, quote, absolute blackness. And then a little later on, they use a flare, and there is whiteness without heat and blind inertia. Which brings to mind something that Slothrop is avoiding thinking about in this, quote unquote, white moment. The vain blind tugging at his sleeves. It's important, please look at us, but it's already too late. And then he's kind of out of the burst of the flare. I guess we didn't say they hop on a train that was designed to carry Nazi brass through the facility.
And they sort of seem surrounded by gnomes.
Mm-hmm.
Who seem upset that they're using their train. That's where it gets a little... I feel like all of this, it's hard to tell what's sort of in Slothrop's head and what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
There's some firefight, like the Americans that are chasing him, like sort of hop onto the back of the train, and Slothrop's trying to uncouple the train.
This is full on like sort of slapstick James Bond action sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah, / also I could picture this happening in Looney Tunes
kind of thing.
Yeah. For
sure.
Like
you pop out of a hole and suddenly you're in a train and the train is going, and
you disconnect
then
the train.
You disconnect the train, but then they're still shooting at you and they're like singing taunting songs as they go, and then Slothrop finds like a warhead and throws it out behind him, and then it crushes their train car.
They find another train.
Yeah,
they find another train.
They disconnect their train. I imagine they leave that sort of in the dust, and then sort of from over the horizon, a second train that the Americans are driving is coming, and it's like pushing the previously disconnected train cars, and Marvy's shooting, and then that's when Slothrop realizes he's crouching behind a warhead.
Yeah, Marvy is shooting wearing a giant white Stetson and clutching 245 automatics.
Very Looney Tunes Sam.
Yosemite Sam.
Yeah. Well, I do feel like Slothrop continuing to sort of like find himself like, ooh, here, I can get out of the situation with this. Like, I roll up at this guy's feet. I like find myself behind a warhead. Oh yeah, I left the keys in the Mercedes. Like, feels very much like a cartoon. Like, you totally think that someone's going to die, and then like boom, 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 everything falls into place and they escape.
Well, as we learned in Roger Rabbit, you can't kill a tune.
Yeah. I think Slothrop's a tune.
I think Slothrop is a tune.
Yeah.
There's only one way to kill a tune, and it's the dip, aka Imipolex G.
Whoa.
Yeah, there's not much really for us to talk about line by line, but like, It's an enjoyable scene. There's a lot of fun little gags with, say, Professor, could the shockwave from a 45 bullet at this range succeed in detonating this warhead here if it struck the casing, even if there was no fuel installed? Well, Tyrone, now that would depend on many things. Muzzle velocity, wall thickness, and composition.
Classic Professor answer.
Yeah. That's the old Glimpf response, you know?
Plus, he's a high school teacher. He's not even a professor at a university. Just give me a yes or a no.
But Slothrop and Glimpf do make it out of the mountain, so I don't think we should have too much Glimpf hate.
No, he is very helpful.
Yeah. Finally, daylight kind of seems like a good thing. This is the first time that someone has wanted to go out in the daylight in a Pynchon novel.
This mountain, I mean, for obvious historical reasons, but also just in this novel, seems like bad news.
Yeah.
Does not seem like a great place to be stuck inside of.
Do you think it's that miasma of evil that Slothrop is wandering around in?
Yeah, it just felt like the deeper you get, like, kind of, not to pull another Lord of the Rings mountain, but, oh no.
Moria,
thank you. You know, the deeper you get, the deeper you dig, the more evil is unearthed. I gotta work on my references.
We just gotta get the Lonely Mountain in here, guys. We'll have the big three.
I'm waiting for a dragon to show up in Thomas Pynchon.
Ooh.
That'll be the day.
Maybe Mason and Dixon, if anywhere. Glimpf gets the idea, like, go up into the mountains. We'll go to my buddy Zvitter. He's up there in one of them castles. But he, quote, takes a Bavarian approach to electronics, which Glimpf is not a fan of. And Slothrop's like, well, I guess even a Bavarian approach to electronics has got to be all right in a time like this.
Yeah, Glimpf explains that the Mittelwerk tunnel complex isn't big enough for all the research that needs to be done, and so some of the control systems engineers were put up in this castle. Control systems.
Did this feel reminiscent of kind of the Nazi engineers that hid themselves away in the Alps following?
Where did we learn about that, Duri?
I'm so sorry to our listeners. On the Patreon.
Yeah. You can just go watch those documentaries.
Yeah,
you don't have to.
We're not gatekeeping the knowledge. We are just gatekeeping us talking about it, you know?
The insights.
Yeah. I did like here a lot that we initially encounter this castle, a forested dome with small dilapidated castle on top, hundreds of doves, white teardrops dripping from its battlements. The green breath of the woods has sharpened, grown colder, and it's like, yes, doves, the wilderness. And then later down that page, there is dove shit all over the place.
Yeah, I feel like this, across this whole episode, or like the whole section that we read, there's a lot of this good contrasting of like beautiful imagery, like the rolling hills and like the streets that looked like slabs of raw meat, and like the doves and the dove shit all over the place, and like the beautiful sunset and this like tragic town. I do feel like we're getting a lot of contrast, I guess, between the natural beauty and, I don't know, I was going to say the industrial reality, but I feel like the dove poop is just like the other side of nature.
Mm-hmm. We get a description of first Glimpf's and then Zviter's desks. And sort of in the same Slothrop and Tantaby dynamic, Glimpf's is sort of completely piled high with random junk, and Zviter's is clean and proper.
Do you think we're meeting the sort of like Nazi doppelgangers of Tantaby and Slothrop?
Could be.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's a proper mad Nazi scientist lab. If only Plastic Man were here, Slothrop wonders. There's one final choral song here about, how, as we've talked about on this pod before, this war is winding down. But man, we're already setting the stage for the next one.
Kind of like the polymers still. Like, I think Gelly mentions earlier, the G5 have just come together in an arrangement for this particular moment, but they're about ready to like splinter off and find new arrangements and go to war with each other. Entropy's coming again soon.
Well, we've made it to the end of our section. Any final thoughts on our introduction to the Zone?
Zone is a ragtag place. I feel like we've spent so much time in proper old England, and now we're really out in the wilderness here.
And the Riviera, of course.
That was very proper. It was under control of the proper English, even if it was in a more fun setting.
Yeah, this is certainly no such place.
I feel like, and I think this is possibly coming from me not knowing much about this book before diving into it, but I'm quite interested in how the book is exploring not really World War II per se, but what happens at the end of a war, what happens in the immediate aftermath of a war, how do things get rearranged or resettled, what happens to the enemy. I feel like these are all really interesting questions that don't get explored in history books a lot.
Starts to seem like, to quote the line that I keep coming back to, that has sort of like been ringing around in my brain since page 1, that it is not a disentanglement from, but a progressive nodding into. The war ends and it doesn't disentangle the stuff going on in the war. It just keeps knotting things further and further.
Yeah, I feel like that connects to what Gelly was saying of like things getting knit and then unknit and then knit and then unknit.
Mm-hmm. Progressively knit. Yeah, not that I've looked ahead, but it seems like we're jumping into into a very different zone down towards the bottom of this page. I haven't looked so much beyond it, but I'm intrigued to see what immediately happens next.
I would love to learn what's going on with the Schwartz command.
Yeah.
I feel like we keep getting hints in that direction, and it has not yet come together.
I think we might get that very soon.
Exciting.
Thank you for listening to Pynchon Pals. You, the listener. Yes, you. Thank you. And thank you to Andrew Tillett.
Thank you.
And to Duri Long.
Danke.
For joining me. If you like what we're doing here, we'd love it if you left us a review on Apple Podcasts or on your podcatcher of choice. Thanks very much to those of y'all who have done so already or in the past. On our next episode, we will be reading sequences 3.3, 3.4, and 3.5. So we'll be stopping at sequence 3.6. If you'd like to get in touch with the show or submit a question to be answered on air, you can reach us at pynchonpals@gmail.com. And I don't even need to say that you can support the work we do here at patreon.com/pynchonpals, because God bless you. You have listened to us say that enough on this particular episode. Our theme music is Horology by the inimitable King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, released under a Creative Commons Attribution No Derivatives license on the album Polygon Dwanaland. Pynchon Pals is produced and edited by me, Patrick Fiorilli. You can find more of my work alongside my newsletter, Critical Theory Craft, at my website, www.patf.io. Until next time. Gonna do a limerick?
I was trying to think of one, but I was not that quick on my feet.
Ad-lib a full limerick on the spot.
That's fine. That's just an improv game. Here we go. There once was a listener of Pynchon Pals.
Pals is a hard one.
Who loved the sounds that went in to their ear canals. in the gap of 2 weeks, they
read about more freaks.
Come on, Duri. One more thing that rhymes with pals. Pals, mals, stals.
And didn't it improve their morale?
Yeah! We feel like we're ready to go back in.
Into the zone.
You ever think that a tea bag has another cup in it, and then it doesn't?
Why didn't you get yourself a new tea bag? We have
thought
so much tea.
I thought it had another cup in it.
Yeah, it never does.
Now, maybe that's because it's been sitting here steeping for the past hour and 20 minutes, but
Rookie mistake.
it ain't got it.
Rookie mistake. Look,
That's all right.
nothing.
I'm just going to drink hot water.
Just tastes like sun tea, but it's not that hot out. You ever had that happen?
Yeah.
My parents were really into sun tea for a little while, and when I was in like high school.
What is sun tea?
I think my parents also had a brief phase with sun tea.
It's where you just like put the tea bag in, you jam a bunch of tea bags in like a gallon of water and you leave it outside, like in the sun, and it steeps, like you don't boil it. And it's subsequently kind of a lighter flavor.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah, there's a reason. It's not
who made this popular?
It's not really that good. I'm going to guess it's people who like...
The fact that both of y'all know it makes me think it's not like a southern thing.
Yeah, I definitely made it with my mom one time.
Sun tea.
I mean, I think anywhere people be drinking lots of tea and they're like, I got to set the sun tea and then I go out and work in the field and then I come back.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Thoughts on sun tea? R/T?
I bet R/T is not into sun tea.
This lady grew up with it in the Southwest. Her grandma's sun tea in the Southwest. So it was unsweetened.
Wow, it's really...
I think it seems...
Where does it...
Someone else has it.
Spans all regions.
Am I going to feel like an idiot? Is this like a sort of very special traditional method for making tea that I'm going to sound like a jackass for being like sun tea? Ooh.
No, because I know what it is and I'm like sun tea. Ew. I think it's just like low energy, like it's low energy and low effort. It's like the overnight oats of sweet tea because you just like put it together and leave it. You don't have to like boil the water. You don't have to do anything. You just come back at the end of the day and you've got tea.
Now, see here, I'm reading an article from Illinois Extension that is extolling the dangers of sun tea.
Yeah, Southern Living says, is sun tea safe to drink? We asked the FDA.
As opposed to what? Any water that's been outside? Like it's water that's outside. The water's got fluoride in it. You're using water from the tap. That's the problem.
I don't know, Andrew. I have a rain barrel right now, and it smells to high heaven in this heat.
But that's not. Your rain barrel didn't come from the tap.
Filtered water. That's
water
true.
heated by the sun doesn't reach the proper temperature needed to kill off bacteria. Simple as that.
But if you're using
Why do you
water
need to kill off bacteria
that is coming from the tap, it doesn't. Like I'm not drinking that warmed up either. Like it goes through the filter and you drink it. And if you pour it, like I get that, yeah, if it was outside for like 3 weeks, you're like, okay. But if it's been outside for like 8 hours, like my water bottle's outside for 8 hours and I still drink it, like it doesn't make sense. Yeah, if you're using water,
the bacteria is in the tea. There's bacteria in the dried tea products that are only minimally processed and may carry pathogens that require high temperatures to neutralize. It's not the water, Andrew. It's the tea.
Everyone's. Who cares?
What does Tyrone Slothrop say? You got to go up one level in the assembly or something.
I forgot my lunch at work today.
Andrew, if they can get you asking the wrong questions, they don't have to worry about the answers.
I forgot my lunch at work today. I ate some blackberries I found on a bush. It's going to be okay.